What do you hate debating the most?
The two topics, one of which somehow I've been roped into debating a lot recently, is don't demonize or villainize people that disagree with you. People can disagree with you for reasons that are virtuous, even if you guys have totally opposite feelings about a thing. It's probably not that they're...
That's a hard one.
Yeah, but people assume people are evil. Like if they disagree, it's because they're evil, horrible people.
Someone who had a very big presence online, you might know him. His name is Andrew Tate. I interviewed him 3 years ago, and all you see in the comments is everyone reaming me out for interrupting. So I'm going to try to learn. I don't think I interrupted too much. Maybe people just really love Tate that much. They just wanted to hear every single second.
Interrupt as much as you want. Okay. Don't worry about it.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, let's start. So first question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you enjoying life right now?
I'd give it anywhere from a 7 to a 9. Just depends on the day.
Okay. I mean, you must be excited by the fact that you're getting invited on all these live shows. You put out any sort of content, it gets hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Is that what you wanted to achieve? Like, is this something where you're like, oh, wow, I did the thing I was seeking to do, or did it just kind of happen out of nowhere?
Well, I mean, it depends on what point of my life you're talking about. When I was 19, 20, I think my dream was to make enough money not to get kicked out of my house. So, I mean, I would say I'm doing significantly better than that. As for where I'm at now, my next year we'll find out what's going on. I think I probably want to do more politically active stuff. And I finally have a couple of people behind the scenes that are helping me get connected a lot to kind of political campaigns, and then we'll see how we can kind of utilize my audience that way. So that's like the next big thing. This past year has kind of been the whole red pill dating arc and everything, which has been interesting, but mostly just sad. So yeah.
Sad?
Yeah.
How so?
It feels like red pill to me is kind of like the Bigfoot, I guess, of the bird spotting world or whatever, of like where it's just like it's this whole community of people that are, in my opinion, entirely delusional, but they've all like convinced themselves of these things that are completely not mapping onto any reality, either data driven, anecdotally driven, personally driven. The content creators don't do any of it. Like, it's just like insane to me how many people have kind of bought into these concepts. So
okay, I was going to get into this later, but we'll get into it now. So when I think of red pill, simply put, I think female nature, male nature. Would you say that's sort of the basis of what people are trying to explain in the manosphere and the red pill community?
Ostensibly, I mean, they say that. Sometimes it just feels like a lot of it is like very hate driven.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that there is any truth, or even in your own experience, to the fact that men and women are different, and so there is a sense of male nature and female nature?
I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody's. I think you can say broadly speaking, men and women are different, but I think the overlap is way larger than the differences. Like a Venn diagram between men and women, like people act like it's like this, like barely touching, whereas it's probably like 85% overlap. I think there are a few key differences that are important to talk about, but the whole like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, I don't agree with that. I think we have way more in common than we do different.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. Before we get back into that, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview is I personally wanted to learn more about you and who you are as a person. And of course, we'll get into more red pill stuff later and your thoughts and opinions on that. But, you know, where did you grow up?
A place not too unlike this, actually, Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you laughing about? You don't think Omaha and Chicago are fairly similar? Listen. Okay, hold on. Listen, I've been living in LA. I've been living in Miami. Okay. Chicago, Kansas City, St. Louis, Omaha. They're all pretty similar to me. Okay. Let's calm down here. All right.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Midwestern, big, like cities that are decent sized cities, but they're not like coastal. You're not like in New York City. You're not in Seattle. You're not in San Francisco. So
you live in Miami.
I do now. Yeah.
Do you like it?
I do like it, but I'm still taking umbrage with the fact that you guys are making fun of my Omaha town. Okay.
No, listen, I would say Chicago is definitely different than well, I think Chicago is like a baby New York.
Yeah, you would say. How? Oh, because you're born and raised here. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. A baby New York. Okay.
Yeah. It's a smaller version of New York.
So what does that mean? Like all of the crime, none of the economy, or?
I would say it is, I mean, versus like LA or Miami, it's got that urban feel. I can't imagine Omaha has an urban feel.
Oh, we've got an urban feel. All right. We remodeled the whole downtown. It's got cobblestone, horses.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, the old market, guys.
You went from dirt to cobblestone.
Yeah, okay. And if you drive out, you can see cows and corn. It's pretty cool. We got internet down there, phones, electricity for at least 20 years. Like, yeah, it's a good place. Okay.
Killing it. Okay. Did you want to just get out of there as soon as you could?
Yeah. 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 But I have a son down there and I didn't want to move until he was like old enough for me to kind of have that conversation. So I didn't want to move when he was like 2 or 3. So I waited until he was 8 and then we talked about it and then I moved and yeah.
Okay. Are you still close with the baby mama?
I mean, yeah, like we keep in contact. We have to parent and everything. We don't hate each other, but we're not like super close friends. But yeah, I mean, we talk a fair bit, usually about my son. Yeah.
Okay.
Our son, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up in Omaha. What was your relationship like with your parents?
Relatively distant. They tried their best, but they were really busy with everything. So I kind of just stuck to myself. Yeah.
Okay. How did you think that had an effect on you?
Yeah, probably. I think probably a good one. I'm a pretty self-driven person. I don't need a lot of external validation or anything.
That seems like that's a positive effect.
I mean, I would say so. Definitely in this industry, it equipped me to deal with a lot of adversity. Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, I was looking at your Instagram earlier and looking at the stuff that you were posting. And on the stuff that you were posting on your Instagram, there's people over there hating on you.
Yeah, it really just depends. You can probably follow, you know how like archaeologists can look at like a mountain and you can tell based on the layers of sediment, like, you know, the time period. You can go through my Instagram and find out which communities I was fighting with, probably based on the picture. You'll see some picture, a bunch of people calling me a cuck, probably red pillars. You might see a bunch of people calling me a Nazi, was probably fighting with left-leaning people. See a bunch of people calling me racist. I was probably fighting with some BLMs. Like, it just depends. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Okay, who's next to fight with after the red pill? You're getting into politics soon.
Well, I mean, technically politics is where I come from. And then I got into red pill stuff. But next, I'm not too sure. It might be fighting. Hopefully it's fighting with Republicans because that's who I don't like the most. Going into the next year, it'll depend on how strong that kind of like far left movement is online though, because they like to fight a lot too. So, but it should be fighting against Republicans and conservatives generally.
Okay. Back to your parents. So are you close with them now?
Close-ish. Like we live close. I think we probably live about an hour from each other, but I mean, I'm working like all the time, but yeah.
Oh, they're in Miami.
Technically a place called Homestead, but yeah.
Okay.
Like an hour south. Yeah.
Do they watch your stuff? Are they proud of what you do? Are they like, holy shit, our kid is killing it online and where the hell did this all come from?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, my parents super love me. They're supportive of basically whatever I do. My mom wishes I didn't cuss so much. She's like a very MAGA, pro-Trump, Cuban immigrant. But no, they both love me. They both support me. Yeah.
Okay. Was there a lot of intellectual discussion happening in your household? Like you say if you look at the sediment, right, and you look at all the debates you've had over the years, it almost would seem like you've come from a family of intellectual discussion, debating, fighting. What did it look like? Or am I just totally off?
Yeah, not at all. That would be cool though. My parents are just very much have always been kind of like ride or die Republicans. So I grew up just like learning. I listened to Michael Savage, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Billy Cunningham, all of these like conservative to Glenn Beck, all the conservative talk radio guys. I personally like to argue a lot. So like when I would go to school, I would fight with a lot of people. I'd argue that way. So I've always been kind of like a debater, argumentative person, but there wasn't much argumentation in my family because I just kind of like fell in line with all the conservative talking points, basically.
Okay. Did you get bullied or were you a bully when you were younger? Because you sound like you would be a bully based off of, yeah, we'd still fight with people and start arguments with people.
No, I mean, like I was funny. I think if you're funny, you get a pass on so many things. So I had like a lot of different friends from a lot of different communities, just because I could always make anybody laugh. Also, I don't know if I went to a Catholic high school, so I don't know if life is significantly different there versus like on TV shows, but I would say in general, people weren't bullies there. Like you don't have the biggest bullies that I ever remember in school. I don't know if it's like this in normal public schools, but the biggest bullies in school were usually kind of like the loser kids. They would just bully other people, but like people on the football team weren't bullying like random nerds, or people like in the wrestling team weren't bullying like band kids, or like that just didn't happen because they usually stick around, and two, usually most of those people were like generally pretty cool. Like they just saw you in the hallway and they might make a joke maybe or something, but generally no, I never saw any of that kind of stuff in my school. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because what you're describing is just the portrayal of TV in the 90s.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. But I don't know. Maybe in normal public schools, maybe it was like that. Where like, I can't imagine though, like in my high school, like a bunch of football kids like going up to like a nerdy guy, like trying to bully him. Like they just wouldn't talk to him. They probably just like keep walking and they just talk with their friend group and everything. But
right. It's almost, I would say you probably on average would not see that. So I'm curious like where that would even come from when you're watching TV and you're saying, well, why are all the jocks the bullies and the nerds? But you know, it's like, I mean, I went to a very big high school. I went to a 4,000 person high school.
Okay.
So there was so many cliques, like that whole idea of what like the media would portray or Hollywood and television would portray was not at all. It was a lot of interminglings.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd have people who played sports who were friends with people who didn't play sports. And yeah, maybe there'd be someone who would be a bully, but it wouldn't be because of any specific reason of who you're associated with and if you're smart versus not smart. Or
yeah, and usually when I think of the people that were bullies in my high school, usually they were, I say losers, it's kind of mean, but they're people that they're not doing extracurriculars, they're not part of any sports team, they're just kind of like on their own, and they're kind of no honors classes, kind of weird, and they're just like kind of being rude to people, but
super outsiders.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. I think I heard you say on an interview that you're autistic.
A lot of people say that.
No, I think you said that.
I say it jokingly. I don't know.
Okay, so that was a really dry joke.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. All my jokes are pretty dry. You know, I might be. Who knows? You know, the jury's out on that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Heterosexual, bisexual.
Probably leaning into the bi one a little bit.
Okay. So, and you have an open relationship with your wife.
Yeah.
And so, are you hooking up with men and women outside of the relationship?
Sometimes, yeah. Generally women, but yeah.
Okay. When does it become that you're hooking up with men?
I don't know, probably around like 29, 30.
Okay, so that's like it's like a phase.
Well, that's when I started, so.
Oh, that's when you started?
Yeah.
Okay. And is she bisexual as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So how does this play out in your relationship if it's open, where you two can go off and hook up with, looks like at this point, lots of people because you're bisexual?
I think.
Where do the rules come into play?
So in an ideal world, usually we're both seeing somebody at the same time, or we're both traveling at the same time. So there's not like feelings of jealousy or resentment. And hopefully it's a person that's not like rude towards the other partner. So like if I find some girl that's like shitting on Melina publicly, probably not going to be okay. If she's with some guy that's like shitting on me publicly, probably not going to be okay. But I'd say like roughly speaking, those are kind of the rules. And then making sure that everybody's like currently happy in the relationship. Like it's probably not good to have like a big fight and then, you know, I go hook up with somebody. It's probably not a good thing, you know?
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. So if you do have, are hookups allowed, or is it like, hey, it's not hooking up, you have to be in some sort of, there has to be some sort of emotional connection or more substantial thing?
I'd say for our relationship, it's probably like hookups plus, like we're not quite like poly. We don't like have 3 people living in a household, like all dating and loving and blah, blah, blah.
Would you like that?
Yeah, as of recently, actually, because I need somebody to cook and clean. So, you know, if there's a third wife out there that wants to, that'd be an interesting lifestyle. I'm not sure. The big limiter right now in my lifestyle is usually just that I work a lot. So like I barely have enough time for my wife. So to add another person onto that seems like it would be even more challenging. Yeah, but I think that like, I don't think neither me nor her prefer like just one night stands. It's not really that much fun. It's not fulfilling. So kind of like longer term, like sexual friendships, I think are the ideal.
Sounds like a lot of work.
I mean, as much work as maintaining any friendship is, right?
Yeah, and friendships are a lot of work.
Yeah, true. Well, just like friends, but you fuck them, you know?
Okay, fair enough. All right, so I also heard on another interview, which I found interesting. You never seemingly had to ever look up dating advice when you were younger. You didn't have problems with women. You spent a lot of time around women when you were growing up. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of I grew up very independent. So I've kind of always been independently minded. So I'm not like generally looking for validation from external people.
Do you have siblings?
Kind of, yeah. I've got... technically, I've got like 4 or 5 siblings or 5 or 6 siblings.
Okay.
But my parents were divorced before. So most of them are out of the house. So I'm kind of the second youngest, but then I'm also kind of like really the oldest brother of two. Like it's me and my little sister, however you read that. But I'm not very close with any of my family or siblings. So.
Okay. But you're close to the parents.
I'm not very close to my parents. They live near me and we try to see and talk to each other, but I'm pretty kind of like on my own generally most of the time. Yeah.
Do you just not like them?
No, I'm just kind of like an on my own. I'm a Sigma male, you know? Have you ever heard the...
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Do you have a problem with Sigma males too? This guy says, seems like he's got a lot he wants to say with it. No, I'm sorry. No, I truly do. I tend to just stick out on my own. Because I'm always like
sheep.
Well, how about lone wolf?
Blue
okay,
sheep.
how about lone wolf? Okay, let's go with that one. No, I like to do my own thing. It makes me uncomfortable when people are like relying on me for happiness or like worried about me or want me to check in or need something from me. Like I kind of like to do my own thing. I like to work when I want to work, hang out when I want to hang out. I like to be in control of all my stuff. And generally, the more attachments you have, the more you're kind of like owing other people. I just had a friend, I'm pretty sure a friend, talked to me like 2 days ago about our relationship and how he says it works really well because we like to argue and shout at each other, but our expectations of each other are very, very, very low because it's hard for me to like commit to anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, being that the way that you're describing yourself right now, it almost makes sense why you're in an open relationship where it's like you almost don't want to commit to anything fully but yourself.
Yeah, that's well, if you want to put it in the most negative framing possible, sure.
I don't know if it's negative. It just is what it is.
Okay, sure. It's
okay.
probably kind of true. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So back to what you were saying, you had a lot of girlfriends growing up.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that. So
through a really bizarre stroke of luck, my mom moved out when I was like 14, 15, and she took my little sister because my little sister homeschooled, and my mom wanted to be with her mom in Florida when we lived in Nebraska. And then my dad moved out when I was like 15 or 16. So it was kind of just me living with my grandma in like a retirement home. And so it was like getting rides to school was a little difficult because I didn't have money for a car yet. Sometimes my grandma's friends would drive me. There was a person I met online once that gave me a ride to school. Just like kind of weird. Weird stuff. I happened to have a girl through a mutual friend contact me, and she basically said that she could give me rides to school if I paid her a little bit of gas money. And because of that, I basically kind of became like stuck to her. So she would pick me up after school, but if she wanted to hang out with her friends or if she was like volunteering or doing whatever, I was kind of always around her and her group of friends. And so it was always her and like 5 other girls that I'd be hanging out with all the time, basically. Yeah.
So did you find that all that time spending around females that you started to feel comfortable around them or understand them more?
I mean, I don't think I was ever necessarily, it probably helped a lot, but I don't think I've ever been like uncomfortable around any person. I'm just really lucky that I don't think I grew up feeling that way. Like I've always been able to integrate with a large amount of people. Like I've always been, even before streaming, I've always been like pretty non-clicky. Like I'll generally talk to most people or hear somebody out. And that probably just extended to the groups of friends too, like all the girls or whatever. Yeah.
Interesting. No, I was just thinking too, as you're saying this non-committal person that you are, no wonder you're going into all these different areas of debate. You know, it's like all these different topics, all these different communities. You're really heavy in the red pill manosphere debates right now. Who knows, maybe in a year, 2 years, that's going to be, you know, out the window. You'll be debating someone else, and you just kind of bounce around. And
I mean, it goes by whatever is currently capturing my interest. I have a wide variety of interests, so there's a lot of things that I enjoy debating, but sitting in one topic for like years and years kind of exhausts me, because all the arguments basically get played out. Like even at this, there's going to be people in my audience that are memeing like, oh, what's the difference between men and women? Or, oh, do body counts matter? Because there are like so many of these types of conversation topics. Not to point out, I don't know if you're talking about these or not.
No,
but like,
I'm just looking right now. I haven't looked at the chat.
Oh, sure. But it'll be the same like when I argued, when I was debating like communists for a long time. It's like, oh, are co-ops better than capitalism? Or, oh, is everybody systemically racist or evil? Or if I'm debating conservative, it's like, are we talking about trans people again? You know, so yeah, I'll get fatigued on a topic and then kind of move on to something else to talk about. Yeah.
What do you hate debating the most?
The two topics, one of which somehow I've been roped into debating a lot recently, is veganism and abortion.
Okay. And you just don't enjoy that.
They really like hit at the boundaries of like human knowledge, like things we can even know, like asking really hard questions, like what is it like to be an animal? And it's hard to answer really, like what is it like to be a human? Or when does human consciousness start? Or when does human life start? Like these are things that test a lot of like the absolute boundaries of things we can know. So it's kind of annoying to argue them because people have really strong opinions about them.
You don't seem like an absolute guy.
Is there am I like half woman or? No, I'm just kidding. I know what you mean.
Is there anything you do feel absolute on?
Yeah, there are a few things. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I have my notes somewhere. I think I've like distilled like there's like 5 because I know people like list so much. There's like 5 kind of like broad rules for, I say like politics, but it's probably for life in general.
Okay.
I'm not going to remember all these stuff in my head, but like one is like, if you're ever trying to figure something out, don't just define yourself by your opposition. So like teens might go through a rebellious phase, but you don't want to spend your whole life saying these guys believe that, so I'm going to believe the opposite. People do that all the time. Don't demonize or villainize people that disagree with you. People can disagree with you for reasons that are virtuous, even if you guys have totally opposite feelings about a thing. It's probably not that they're
a hard one.
Yeah, but people assume people are evil. Like if they disagree, it's because they're evil, horrible people. There's probably some others. I don't remember the other 3. I have notes for. I gave a speech to a bunch of high schools the other day, and I like formalized this. But there's just like a couple of kind of like approaches to life, basically, that I've kind of kept for probably about 20 years that I haven't really changed my mind on at all. So I don't think I'm going to.
Destiny's 5 commandments of
something like
living.
that, basically. Yeah. Don't follow politics if it makes you miserable all the time. That's stupid. Like always start with yourself. You can't go out and build communities or families or the world if your own place is like a nightmare. Don't get like so obsessed with the federal government, the international world. If like your own individual world is miserable, like clean up the area around you. Yeah, there's a couple more, but
this is Destiny's Rule to Life. This is your book.
Yeah.
Are you going to write a book?
If I get banned on YouTube, sure. I don't need the money right now though, but maybe.
I doubt you'll get banned on YouTube.
Okay, we'll see. I admire the vote of confidence. So
if Fresh and Fit are not banned from YouTube, I don't know how you would be gone before them.
They're on like strike 2. So
are they?
I think so. Yeah.
Interesting.
I read that on Reddit. Maybe they're not, but
well, then you have to get on Rumble, right?
Maybe
do that whole thing. Okay, so you grew up around a lot of female friends. It's interesting. So as you're just learning, I'm a dating coach for men. So I help shy men and men who are even not necessarily shy attract women, be able to have dating lives that they want, basically have more choice in women. And so when I heard on one of the interviews that you grew up around women, and that I remember you said something to the degree of, okay, you weren't uncomfortable around them from the beginning, but it still taught you some things. And I also grew up around women. I had a close relationship with my mom. I had a girl best friend who lived across the street from me. She had her girlfriends. I would hang out with them all the time. I was like in the inner female circle. And of course, friend zoned, which wasn't really a problem. I wasn't trying to go after those women or anything like that, but I was around women all the time. And even though I had that experience, I only felt that maybe helped me 25% of the way in terms of understanding women to the point of like, how do I get them attracted to me? Because the advice I would hear from them all the time, what I remember was be really nice to women and lots of compliments and just all this kind of like be a sweetie. And that did not help me in college. That did not help me in my early 20s. And so my journey is that this is pre-Red Pill. I found the pickup community, which is another community which is can be very dangerous if you go too far into it. Luckily for me, I didn't go too far into it. I picked what would work and what didn't work. But the things that I found worked were the opposite of what I was around when I was around a lot of women, which was being more assertive, being more confident, not giving them lots of compliments, not trying to be the simp, as they say. So I'm curious your thoughts on, this idea of the advice that you might hear from betas or blue pill versus what you might hear in like a red pill community. Both seem to be maybe on the extreme end, but any thoughts on that in terms of like being nice versus not being nice, simp, non-simp, things like that?
Anybody that describes themselves as a pill, I would suggest ignoring completely, because usually their advice is way too extreme and usually they don't understand what they're saying. Like people can give good advice without understanding why it's good. Like telling you to be nice to women is good advice and it can work in some circumstances if you understand why. Telling somebody to be mean to women can be good advice and it can work, but you don't understand why. The most important thing about spending time with women though, is that you're not nervous around women. Right. So like when you say it's like,
agree with that.
Yeah, you say it's like only 25% of the way there. But I mean, like for a car, one tire is only 25% of the tires on the car, but it's not moving unless all four wheels are there, right? So being around women and being comfortable around women that's going to be a prerequisite for anything. You can have the smoothest pickup lines in the world, but you know, like if you're like nervous and scared and you can't look somebody in the eye and you're like freaking out, it doesn't really matter if the other 75% is there. So I think being comfortable around women is probably the important like first step. From there, I mean, well, there's like a million things I could say. More specifically, what do you want? Like the difference between...
I want anything. Hit me with whatever you got.
In my personal opinion, the most important quality that you can have in all of life, and it affects dating, relationships, romantic and non-romantic, friendships, business things, or whatever, is usually some level of confidence. By being confident in yourself, by loving and respecting yourself, from that will stem oftentimes positive behaviors that are very attractive towards other people without you even deliberately working on it. Like I think I spent a lot of deliberate internal work, especially I went from being like Catholic to atheist. So there was a lot of like self-reflection there, probably when I was like 16, 17.
Still atheist?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know if I've put that much deliberate work into like being a pickup artist. Like I think most of that just kind of like stems naturally from the general reflections I do on myself and socializing. And then a lot of it just kind of works for relationships as well. So for instance, so we can talk about like negging is very hard to understand for some people. You go up to a woman and you kind of like be mean to her, and sometimes somehow that makes her like you. A blue pillar might say you're being emotionally manipulative to make her reliant on you for validation. A red pillar might say you have to put her in her place so that she has to chase you or whatever.
I love that you know the sides so well.
Yeah, I mean, like different people have like different angles on things. In my opinion, I learned this really early on, and I noticed this is just an observation when talking to women. I know who I am. I've got my friends. I don't like desperate for anybody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed this a lot when I was working at the casino. I had a job like as working in a cafe. That when
How old are you at this point?
I think 19. Okay, 19,
quite
20.
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed when I was like talking to women that sometimes a woman would tell me something. We'd be like, oh, like what's like your favorite band? And she'd be like, you know, Third Eye Blind. And I genuinely like wouldn't like, I probably shouldn't say it because I probably did like Third Eye Blind when I was a teenager, but I might say something like, oh, I hate that group. They have like the worst music ever. And I noticed that like when I'd say something like that, the response I would get from the other person was they felt like really excited to argue, and they felt like the conversation got very playful. And in retrospect, I realized for a lot of these things, it was probably the first time a lot of these girls have ever had a guy their age like fight them on a point. Because I think they're used to guys just kind of like being really clingy and really simpy. And it's like, that's my favorite band too. That's my favorite movie too. I like all the things you like. Please love me and accept me, you know? So being willing to have like a backbone and kind of like play with people, I think was a really important part of like these, I don't know, you call them boy-girl dynamics or whatever.
Attraction dynamics.
But that's something that just stemmed from my self-confidence. Like if I disagree with you about something, then I'll say it and we'll fight about it. I won't be personal about it. But that's how I would explain like that type of interaction. People on the left will say like, oh, you're just being an asshole. It's like, not really. I'm never really being an asshole to somebody. Like it's very rare that like people, there's a claim I get a lot on streaming. Like people say, oh, you neg women all the time. It's like, not really. Like if I'm fighting with somebody, it's over something like a choice in movies or media or something. I'm never going up to him and be like, huh, you look so fat in that dress. You know, like I'd never say that, and that's not going to work. Like a girl's not gonna be like, oh, like let's argue about that. She's just gonna hate you, you know. So yeah, I would say being confident. But the reason why I don't do this like dating advice or dating coach stuff is because I don't know how to get to that point. It's an easy thing to say, but it's obviously very difficult for a lot of people to do. But confidence is probably the building block of every single other trait that you're going to develop in life, I think.
Do you feel you have full confidence?
Yeah, I would say so. No
insecurities?
Not really, no.
Not even one?
I mean, I'm sure theoretically.
Or did you have them and you worked through them?
Since high school, I've said this a lot, I'm very internally driven. Like I usually don't care much what other people say about me. I mean, obviously I'm going to get upset if like people are mischaracterizing my opinions, or if like I've got like anti-fans in my community or whatever. But very rarely will somebody say something to me and now I'm like, have a crisis of conscience where I'm like, oh my God, like maybe I am actually like a horrible person, or maybe blah, blah, blah. Like that just generally doesn't happen much. Yeah.
Do you feel you've grown more confident over the past 3-4 years with the audience that you've built and with the popularity that's grown? Has that
No, I think I've been pretty confident since high school. I think I kind of had to be, because a lot of things I wanted to pursue and do were kind of like absent my parents, like especially by 16. I'm pretty sure by 16, my dad and mom had moved out. So I'm not like doing concerts, like waiting for my mom and dad to be in the audience, like cheering me on, or I'm not like, doing things for the approval of parents or family or professors or anything. So I think I've always just kind of been like pretty internally driven. And then that's just carried over to like my streaming world too.
Let me try a new word. Self-esteem. Has your self-esteem grown from what you've created online in the past 5 years?
I've always said pretty, I would consider these things like one and the same. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think for most people, this is how I would say, if your self-esteem is growing or your confidence is growing because of like audience reaction, what you're actually doing is you're being held hostage by the audience. I always tell this to a new person that comes on stream. Sometimes somebody will come on stream and they'll start liking me. They're like, oh, these people like really like me. And I always say, that shouldn't matter, because today they might like you and tomorrow they might hate you. And it's going to with your head a lot if you're relying on them for your validation. So generally, like, my community likes me, but probably for the next week, I'm about to go through an arc where I fight them all on this stupid like YouTuber React content shit where they're all wrong and I know they're wrong, but like a lot of them are going to hate me for it. But it's like, whatever. There's probably going to be like 10 threads on my subreddit. There's probably threads right now about some tweets I made where people are like, oh, Destiny, he's so wrong on this spot. But it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, my phone's over there. But I saw you tweeted that you think most YouTubers are terrible.
That was a week ago. Oh, yeah.
Most YouTubers are terrible, and you only like less than 10 of them.
I think in this world, I think the public pressure just drives people in very interesting ways that a lot of people individually aren't tested on. Do you ever get the it sounds kind of mean, but like there's a phenomenon. I'm not justifying anything. I'm just explaining everything. No normative loading. Okay. There's a phenomenon where guys that are very regular guys would have to try really, really hard to like find girls to like cheat on their wife or significant other with, who are like these other guys. It'd be like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old guy gets mega famous and then he cheats on his girlfriend. And the guy's like, I can't believe you did. I've never did that in my life. What a horrible thing. And it's like, bro, you have no idea what you would do if you were 21 years old and there's a million women throwing themselves at you. Like, how are you even going to begin to judge that? I think that people that get famous get tested in a lot of different ways that ordinary people don't. And I think that compounding factor makes online relationships very, very, very difficult. For instance, like, it's probably normal that friends shit talk other friends behind their back. It probably happens to most people, where a friend will say something that is kind of mean about one friend to another friend in a different setting. And in real life, that's not that big a deal unless somebody's really bad about it. Like, it just happens. But online, 1 or 2 instances of that can be like the most dramatic thing ever, right? Rather than John going over to David's house and talking a little bit of shit at a party, now John is on a live stream in front of 200,000 people talking shit about another guy. And now that blows up. Communities get involved. Feelings get hurt. Everybody hates each other. Yeah. So I think the online world just like selects for really crazy people and then it tries them in very challenging ways. And then everybody ends up being like a horrible person because of it.
Do you feel like you're in the middle of that? With your online presence.
What do you mean? What is it?
No, I'm saying with your online presence.
Of course. Yeah. I'm surrounded by all these people. Some of it by choice too, but yeah.
Okay. Are you friends with a lot of the red pill characters?
No, I think I just recently axed out the last 2, so probably not. I'd say like roughly
axed out the last 2.
Like people that I was kind of friends with, but it's just like too much. Yeah.
Can you name?
Yeah. The one guy is John Zerka, who kind of, I don't want to say he came up through my stream. That's not really fair, but he's a guy that I've kind of like helped and kind of like supported or vouched for, I think, over the past few years. But like, he's had a recent blow up recently, but he's just like, he's unhinged. He's super big like cokehead.
Is that the guy who has the sunglasses on
and the robe?
Big, strong dude.
I wouldn't say big, strong. He's tall.
Okay. I might be thinking of someone else.
No, you're thinking of the right guy. He wears like a robe everywhere now, and he's got sunglasses. Or
maybe
he talks like this. Fucking John Zerka.
Yeah,
John Zerka.
Got it.
Sacrificial. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Yeah, but he he's just unhinged on social media now. I think I blocked him, I think a week ago, and I think he's been tweeting about me nonstop. If I go check right now
on what?
On Twitter, it's just too much.
So you blocked him so he couldn't look at your stuff anymore.
Well, because I was just tired of watching him shit on me, shit on my wife, like just going off. Like, constantly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you do get tired of that.
Yeah, I don't like if especially people are going to attack people around me.
Because there's a lot of hate on you on the internet.
Yeah, which most of it is like, I understand it. But if we're supposed to be like colleagues or friends, and like, I'm going to hold you to a different standard, right? Like, there are going to be some people that I'll associate with. Like,
going too far.
It's not going too far. It's like, what is our relationship? Like, there are people that I would talk to that probably super disagree with me or like hate me or whatever, but like, we're enemies, so I'll talk to you. But if we're supposed to be like friends or colleagues or whatever, and you're doing it, then yeah, I don't want to associate with you.
Okay.